Hello and welcome back to Ross Taylor Woodworks. This time I've got an old radio cabinet, maybe 1920s, I guess, Art Deco. It's in pretty rough shape. The top is all delaminated. The speaker grill is completely deteriorated. This little framework, this little grill is all broken up. So that needs to be repaired. New speaker fabric, and probably going to redo the finish on this. I was originally thinking I might be able to clean and polish this up, but it's pretty bad. First thing is just kind of take it apart a little bit. There's a little bit in here to take apart. The homeowner kept the radio at the house, just slid out the back, and the speaker just is on a couple of hooks and just came out. So he kept those. I don't need those here. I'm just doing the cabinet work, and he's going to restore the radio. It needs a thorough cleaning first. It's filthy dirty inside. It's been sitting in a garage for a long time. The acoustic fabric is held in with a small reed, just prying that out. There's some felt padding on the other side of the frame. I'm just going to temporarily take that off so I can do the cleaning. Got the cabinet all stripped. It was just a shellac finish, and it took about a half an hour with scrubbing with some lacquer thinner to get it clean. So it's nice and clean and ready for a nice finish. Now I've got to adjust the top here. This is a real mess. Now in the last video I mentioned I did a shiffer robe last year that was not on a video. That I put veneer on the top, and this is the exact same situation. And this is the same thing I'll be doing as I did on the octagon table in the previous video. It's kind of odd that I have two things that come in at the same time that need the exact same thing done. So I've got to get this peeling veneer off the top. There's no repairing this. And I'll be doing the same walnut veneer. I'm still figuring out how I'm going to treat the edge here. The top will not come off on this. It's all glued down with glue blocks and some nails in the back. So this top, I don't want to take it off. It'll do some damage to the cabinet. So I'm going to have to do this in place like this. So first I'm going to try to peel off this walnut veneer and this undercourse, this poplar undercourse. I'm going to glue that back down. And we got a nice base for the new walnut veneer. Alright, I've got the cabinet all masked off. I'm ready to glue the veneer down. And just like the last video, this is 3/16 of an inch, the same exact panel I did before. Except this is just one panel instead of on that table I did two panels. I glued them together so it's just a single, about 15 inches wide. I've got this all set up to glue. Yesterday I glued down this undercourse, got this nice and smooth. This undercourse is very important. This is going to keep it stable. If this undercourse was removed, it would make the top unstable. Because this goes in this direction, the grain in this goes this direction, and the veneer on the top goes in this direction. So you have opposing grain. So it keeps the top stable. Now I've installed some small pins on the edge here. We've got to have something to keep the veneer from sliding. So it has to be pinned in place somehow to keep it from sliding and hold it in place. Now I've cut the veneer to the exact size on this top. On that table I did previously, I just glued it down and then trimmed it later. But this I have cut to the exact size. Except for the back, I've left a little bit of an overhang on the back I can trim off later. I want to follow this edge. It'll be difficult to route this edge later. Alright, down in the finishing room now. I've got the whole thing sanded up to 150. And just like the table, I filled in that cove with some filler. And got that sanded nice and smooth. And got everything else sanded with 150 grit. Just did a light pass over the whole piece. And the next thing I have to do is darken up the trim. This is a gum wood, so it's a little lighter than the walnut. So originally that was a little bit darker than the field. So I'm going to go in and darken that up a little bit. First I'm going to get 2 coats on the entire piece. And just putting a little bit of red mahogany dye on the top. And then proceed with 2 coats to seal up the surface. Now I've masked off the trim, and I'm going to go in and darken up the trim a little bit. Mixed up a couple of different brown pigments, and make a couple of coats on the trim. It'll darken it up just so it's a little bit darker than the field. After finishing all the shellac, now I'm going to do a final rub out, a little bit of 320 paper and some steel wool. And then I use the red mahogany wax. Now I'm going to start putting it back together. Just a little bit of reassembly to do. First is glue those felt pads back on the speaker frame. Okay, now I'm ready to put this acoustic fabric back in. And the original is all deteriorated. The original color right here, it's a brown. Now I have some acoustic fabric here. It's a light tan color. I have this left over from a job I did 20 years ago. So I'm going to use this instead of ordering fabric to match exactly. This is the company that it came from, Wendell Fabrics, called Melatonin. Could have picked out something that was closer, but I believe there was a minimum order with this, a couple of yards at least or something like that. So it doesn't make sense to order up more fabric, and I believe it was quite expensive. I don't recall the price of it. That was 20 years ago. Now I just looked up on the website. They're still making this fabric, but it looks like some of these have been discontinued. Their sample selection is quite a bit smaller than this. So it looks like some of these were discontinued. But that's the company Wendell Fabrics, and called Melatonin Fabric. So I'm going to use this tan fabric that I've had here sitting around for 20 years. Like I said, there was a minimum order on this, and there's a huge roll here. So I'm just going to use this. It'll look fine. It looks like from sitting for 20 years, this outer lap got a little dirty. It's a little discolored. Kind of wrinkled. So I'm going to cut from in here. Measure a little bit extra, like a 15 by 15 piece. The edge of the roll here is a little uneven. The stitching is a little uneven here. So I'm going to come in a little bit here. Now this is just like putting a window screen in. There's some reed splines to push into a groove. There's 3 original splines, and I had to make 1 spline. I took some reeding and shaved it down a little bit on the belt sander. So it's the same size as the original reed, and this is the new piece right here. It fits perfectly. So this is just like doing a window screen. I'm using the window screen tool. I decided to leave a little piece of fabric with the cabinet, so I cut a little sample of the original fabric, and I just wrote a little note here: radio cabinet restored 2021. and original fabric sample. I'm just going to take this, fold it up, and roll it up in there. And then there's a little place inside the cabinet that I can tuck this into. Just take a screwdriver and push it all the way in there. All right, this is all done now. If you recall, the veneer was all water damaged and peeling off the top. So I had to strip that off, put the new veneer on, did some color matching to match it up, and of course had to strip the whole cabinet. This had been sitting in a garage, it looked like, for decades. So that just basically ruined the finish. Put a nice new shellac finish on it, just darken up the moldings a little bit to bring it back more to the original look. These moldings were slightly darker than the field, so got that original look back, and it should look very similar to what it did originally. And of course, put new fabric in. I was working with some fabric that I had on hand. To order new fabric for this didn't make sense. It's such a small piece, and you have to order a minimum amount. If somebody wants to change the fabric, I left a little sample in there. They can easily find that if they take the grill out. And if they want to find something original or close to it, it can easily be changed. Of course, I repaired this grill. Now in this video I did not show the repair on that. That's going to be in a separate video. That took quite a bit of time to do that, so I made a whole separate video of just doing the repair on the grill. So that'll be coming out soon. So there we go.